In this video, we're going to talk about some product rule examples. So the first thing you need to know is you need to know the product rule because we're going to use it a lot. So it's the derivative of a product. So the derivative of f of x times g of x is going to be equal to, and the way that I do it, it's the first function times the derivative of the second plus the second function times the derivative of the first. Okay, so first derivative of the second plus second times the derivative of the first. And you want to say that over and over again until it becomes just a part of who you are. So let's see if we can use it. The first thing you might use it on is something like this. So we're going to use some power rule as we do this. And I'm trying to color code everything, so hopefully I can keep that up. So it's going to be the first, which is x squared plus 4. Now I need the derivative of the second, which is going to be 9x squared plus 4, and then there's a plus, and it's going to be the second function, so 3x cubed plus 4x minus 5, times the derivative of the first, which is just 2x. And I'm actually going to leave that there because it doesn't really get much better when you expand and collect like terms and all that. So I'm going to leave that there. Let's take a look at another example. So say I want to find the derivative of h of x, where h of x is x squared times g of x. Additionally, I'm going to know this information about g of x. So this is a pretty typical problem that you'll face, where you have to kind of really understand what's going on because you can't just multiply things out and so on. So h prime of x, I'm going to need the first times the derivative of the second. But what's the derivative of g of x? Well, there's nothing I can do other than write that the derivative is g prime of x, plus the second, which is just g of x, times the derivative of the first, which will be 2x by the power rule. So I get that. And now what I want to do is find h prime of 2. So to find h prime of 2, I always like to write it out in a step where I show substituting in. That way I can clearly see what I've done. Now I'm going to simplify a little bit. So that's going to be 4. Now you go to the table. G prime of 2 is equal to 4, so 4 times 4. And then plus, go to the table again, g of 2 is negative 3 times 2 times 2, which is 4. So we get that. So we have 16 minus 12, which is 4. And then usually you want to summarize your answer. So h prime of 2 is 4, which means that the function h of x is increasing when x is equal to 2, which is useful to know. Also, we could potentially write the equation of the tangent line if we wanted to. H of 2 would involve plugging 2 into h of x, so we would have 4 times g of 2, which is negative 3, so we would get negative 12, and then you would just write point slope form for the tangent line. We can actually do more with this. So say we have this information. What if we want to find h double prime? Well, before I even try that, what I'm going to do is rewrite this a little bit, and it's only a tiny little bit. So what I've done is I've rearranged that second term, so it's 2 times x times g of x, and you'll see how I use parentheses to deal with that. So h double prime of x, the first thing, I have one product that I have to deal with. So there's the first thing in that product is x squared, and the second thing is g prime of x. So the derivative will be the first thing times the derivative of the second thing, so that'll be g double prime of x, plus the second thing, which was g prime of x, times the derivative of the first, which is 2x. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write plus 2 and put parentheses and deal with the product x times g of x. Another option, which I actually frequently use, is to say that the first function is 2x and the second function is just g of x, but it doesn't really matter how you approach it. This is the way I'll do it this time. So there's my first, there's my second. So it's going to be first, which is x, times derivative of the second, so g prime of x, plus second, which is g of x, times the derivative of the first, which is just 1, which is kind of nice. Then I need to close that blue parenthesis. And now I want to find h double prime of 2. So I'm going to go through and substitute in 2, but not really evaluate anything yet, which is always a good idea because it lets people see what you're doing, which is the main idea here. And now if I go through and pull values off of the table, so you do a lot of interacting with tables on these sorts of problems. These problems are actually easier than problems where you're given 2 actual functions that you know, because then you have to worry about taking the derivative of g of x, whereas here I just say g prime, and it's a lot easier. And if you simplify that, you get h double prime of 2 is 18, I think, which means that h of x is concave up at x equals 2, which might be useful to know. But anyway, that's how you use the product rule on these examples. I hope you found this helpful. Good luck.